You know, it's not every day that you get to do a law enforcement vehicle, but I have here before me a Volvo Polestar, which is, of course, police car, which means it's designed to apprehend people. And what's that? Oh, Polestar. Oh, I'm sorry. I was a bit wrong about that. This is actually a V60 Volvo station wagon that is Polestar Engineering. Now, Polestar is both a high performance and a more electrified version of the automobiles that Volvo sells. Everybody's got their performance divisions, and Polestar is part of the, let's just say, they put a whole lot of serious bets on this vehicle, including Ohlins dampers for your suspension, Brembo brakes, and look at how low this thing is to the ground. That's it's got all-wheel drive, so it can drive in the snow, but man, this is a performance vehicle, if ever I've seen one. And Polestar is a very interesting division. As you know, Volvo's busy electrifying their entire range, and this is a plug-in hybrid. Still has a gas engine, which is a beautiful thing, but it's also a plug-in hybrid to greatly reduce your overall fuel consumption. So we got high performance, we got Volvo-ness, which means safety and versatility and all those good things. And we also have some serious performance involved with this vehicle. So let's take a closer look, shall we? And even, dare I say it, go for a ride. Yes, you know, Volvo is one of the few companies left that still makes a station wagon, a proper station wagon. And this is an area that Volvo has excelled in forever, as long as there's been Volvos. They've made some terrific station wagons that have been legendary in how long they've lasted and everything else. But this is a very, very contemporary vehicle because it is a plug-in hybrid. First of all, look at how long and low it is. I mentioned that before because that's really low for a Volvo. This is a performance street-like thing. You got ports right here. Let me see here. This is for your plugging in right there. So we got a plug-in hybrid situation going on. Beautiful paintwork, by the way. And a fairly long vehicle. This has got a 113-inch wheelbase, which isn't that long, but the overall look of the vehicle is a very long and low and sleek machine. You can see all the way from here, you can see the glowing calipers from Brembo to tell you, to enhance the fact that yes, this is in fact a very high performance vehicle, because Brembo brakes go all the way back. With me, my first introduction to them was on high performance motorcycles. And of course they make brakes for everything, Brembo does, including remember the space shuttle? Yeah, we got rid of that for reasons I'll never understand, but they're really, really good performance brakes. And when you have that combined with the Ohlins suspension, they should be able to handle this 4,500 pound car very easily. Now with all Volvos, you have a lot of safety features. Some of the latest, some of the most annoying, some of the thing about Volvo has always been structurally, they've always been very, very safe, because the company decided many, many years ago that would be one of their key objectives whenever they engineered a vehicle, is they'd make sure that the occupants would be safe even in the worst types of conditions and collisions. So it has all those wonderful things. It also has a lot of tech on it for those who like things like adaptive cruise control, and forget what it's called right off the bat. We'll discuss it later as far as self-steering and all that kind of stuff. Semi-autonomous operation. But this is a really, really interesting Volvo. It's one of the few left. It still has an engine in it also, because they are going to full electrification. At least that's what they want to do for environmental reasons, which is one of the things I've left out when I've talked about Volvo. They are very, very big on environmental considerations to try to make the cars as user-friendly and as environmentally friendly at the same time. So without further ado, I'm itching to show you that engine and electric motor combination, because it's very interesting and it's very Swedish. So come with me and let's have a look under the hood. You know, one of my favorite features of all Volvos is the hood of all things, because look at how much that opens up. It's like it's a great white shark about to eat something. It's pretty amazing. I'm very fond of that, because it makes a lot of sense, because you get so much light under the hood when you have to work on the car, if you have to work on the car. And it's brilliant. I love that about these cars. So let's have a look here. There is, beneath that engine cover, our inline four-cylinder engine. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where the cylinders are. And look at this thing right here. This stabilizes the engine right here to quell vibration. And boy, does it do a nice job of that. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Look at this. It tells you all about your Ohlins suspension damper. That's really, I've never seen anything quite like that. Looks like it's manually adjustable too. Look at that. Look at that there. Isn't that something? I have never seen that on a production vehicle, which says more about me, I guess, except for the fact that I don't think anybody's done that before. You also have a stabilizer right here to run across the from there to there, so that you, in fact, have it ties the front suspension towers together, which always results in much better handling and overall stiffness to the chassis. I still can't get over the size of this thing right here. This is just amazing to keep it smooth. And it does, by the way, when the engine's running, it is very, very smooth. Now, where is everything? This is a gasoline direct injection, of course. And we have our, I'll show this to you here. There's our turbocharger in the back right here, which is pretty much standard fare when they mount the engines. Everybody mounts the engine transversely that does that, that turbocharges it. Usually has a turbocharger in the back, and the turbocharged, the air mixture comes in here, goes into the turbocharger, and is pumped around, and the air goes through a intercooler system, and then comes into your injection system, your direct injection, and your air injection, and your injection of all things, your nitrous oxide, everything right here in the front of the engine, which is pretty much standard fare. Now, to the right, we have electrification right there. It's part of your electric motor system. So, what kind of drive system do we have to the back? Well, I'm going to take a wild guess here. I don't think this is a two-motor vehicle. It's a one-motor vehicle. So we have a conventional all-wheel drive system. We will crawl under there and have a look, and I will show you. I'll show me too. That way I'll know. But I'm assuming this has a conventional all-wheel drive system that is fully operational all the time, and it's always probably putting a bias towards the rear, because Volvos, by and large, have usually been rear-wheel drive vehicles in their history, and then they adopted front-wheel drive later, and all-wheel drive is extremely popular these days, of course. And this car has it, and it's, like I said, more than an all-season or off-road performance. This is not like your all-road out. I'm thinking of Audi all-roads, good God. This is not your off-road capable type of Volvo. This is a performance version. So it puts 454. Well, let's do the numbers, and I'll explain how much power it's putting to the ground and why you need that all-wheel drive. This gas engine right here puts out 312 horsepower. I don't know what the torque value is for that, because they don't tell me. But to the right here we have our electrical motor, which puts out 143 horsepower. So the whole system together puts out a whopping 455 horsepower and 523 pounds of feet in your foot-pound department for torque. What RPMs? I don't have that information. But considering you have both turbocharging and electrification and the assistance of an electric motor, I would imagine you have some serious low-end grunt. We'll test that out. But I don't think you're going to have any problems with that, with getting off the line quickly. I think they quote a 0 to 60 time of their own of around 4.4 seconds, which I don't do 0 to 60 times because there's too much variation in conditions to, I think it can be misleading unless I have a racetrack and a pretty controlled environment. So anyway, you might wonder with all that torque and everything, how much can this tow? Well, as near as I can tell, you can tow a 2,000-pound trailer with this vehicle. Nothing more than that. And I'm not surprised by that, because to me that seems like a very realistic number. A lot of these vehicles that say they can tow 3,500 or 5,000 or whatever, I believe are really exaggerating things a little bit. They're pushing it. I think 2,000 is very realistic. And that you can tow a lot of things that weigh 2,000 pounds, trailers with all kinds of stuff. So it makes perfect sense. So there we have your engine compartment. What's our transmission? It is an 8-speed Geartronic, which means you have some manual selection you can do with paddle shifters, I believe. This being a performance car, how could you not have paddle shifters? But then again, you never know nowadays. They go their separate ways. What else do we have up here? Do we have a dipstick on this car? Let's see. I'm looking. I don't see one readily. I hate the fact that they're getting rid of dipsticks, and you have to just rely on the electronics to tell you what your oil level is at. That's that don't fly with me. I don't like that at all. And what is the viscosity we need? Well, it just tells you use Castrol Edge Professional Synthetic, but it doesn't say. Oh, here we go. 0W20. There we go. Which is a very common type of oil these days, so that's not a problem at all. So there you have it. Packed in pretty good. Yep, it is. It's only 2 liters, but with all the electrification we have over here, naturally you have a much tighter hood than you would otherwise. So I do love how big that hood is, and it just opens right up high. That's such a feature that so many other people could learn from. Toyota Tundra. God. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? This is our power plant. Let's see what the rest of the vehicle looks like. Well, look at all this. You may notice there's a tire and a wheel, but your eyes are going to that beautiful gold metallic Brembo brake caliper right there. They really, normally they're red. Usually Brembo are red with white lettering. This is a gold, baby. This is a gold standard. And look, this is amazing. They even have a matching, that's your air cup, what am I, God, it's the cap for your inflation area on your unit known as the tire. I think that's just amazing. And right underneath it, what's it say? It says Polestar Engineering. So there you have these massive wheels. Everything is just performance on this thing. It's kind of awesome. Our tire size is wheel size is 19 inch. Tire size is 235/40 R19. So these are Continentals, and again, headed towards the performance realm rather than the all-terrain realm. These things are, I believe, perfectly capable of snow operation, but the tread wear is only 280, which is really, really low, and that's because it's just a single A traction rated tire, but I imagine these things stick like nobody's business, even in colder climates. We're a colder climate at the moment because it's chilly out, but That's a whole serious bunch of performance, all just in this area here, just where your wheel is. I'm amazed by all that, actually. That is some serious kit. Okay, so we have, like I said before, 113-inch wheelbase. And as you can see, it is a true station wagon. It's not an SUV. It doesn't have the big bulbous roof on it. It's much more sedan-like. From the front here up to here is your sedan, and then this here is your station wagon right there. They just they weld that on there. It's very sleek and very beautiful. And this, I don't have the paint color. I'm gonna run that by at some point, because this is a really, really nice paint job on this thing. It's beautiful. All right, let's see what we have out back here. Now we have our power lift gate, of course, and let's delve in. And like most Volvos, this is like very, very well furnished compared to a lot of the competition. It just looks like a much more high-end car. It is a high-end car by most standards, I would say. You have your 60-40 split of your bench seat in the second row there. What's our cargo capacity? Well, I believe it's about 22, 20 something. I'll run it at the bottom of the screen. With the seats deployed as they are, and you fold the seats, and I know you have 50 cubic feet of total cargo room, which is not bad for a car with a low roof line like this. It makes perfect sense. Now let's look underneath here. Oh, someone has really sloppily put the electrical cable in there. And we have what appears to be, yes, a motility unit. We don't have a spare tire on this vehicle. That's just sad. But there you go. That unit before that, is that the actual lithium battery up there? Right up there? I don't know. It doesn't really look like it. It looks more like a fuel tank, actually. But anyway, there is a little bit of storage space here, not a whole lot. But then again, there's you gotta have a place to put your cable. Should you be plugging into something at the moment? I actually plugged it in when I got it on our household current, and it was almost fully charged when I did that. So I just wanted to top it off, and that came very easy. Just literally an hour, but I already had like 98% charge anyway. So as we go on with the testing of this vehicle, I will deplete that battery completely, and then we'll see how long it charges up. But you do have the capability of a higher speed charger. You don't have the DC charger, the really high speed, but your normal 220 volt. Yeah, you have a fitting for that, so you can plug right in. And that's what most people, if you had a charger that you put in your house, that's what you would use. So there we go. Plenty of room, no spare tire of any kind. It's a mixed bag for me, but very nicely furnished. But again, this is one of the last of the wagons that you can even get. They really have, for some reason, the manufacturers have decided that everybody wants an SUV. People don't want wagons anymore. And how about you? Subaru still sells a station wagon, thank God. And there's so many SUVs, let's say, I don't know, like the Toyota Venza. It's really much closer to being a wagon than an actual SUV. But anyway, I love the look of this car. I think it's a beauty. You can just tell by looking at it, this is high performance. Your Polestar. Let's take her out. But first, before we do that, we got to go through this interior, because Volvo does everything differently, and the interior is no exception to that. Although, strangely enough, even though this is a 2024 model, it has some of the more traditional kind of Volvo accoutrements in it, as opposed to the latest of the latest, which is the full electrics, which are really kind of daunting. So let's get semi-daunting and check out the interior. Sometimes the more traditional are the best. And then again, you got this Volvo V60, Polestar equipped. And you get a mix of both. You get some of the contemporary bells and whistles, and then you get some of the more traditional. What I'm comparing this to actually is some of Volvo's latest offerings in terms of the full electric models and things like that, because the architecture in the interior is very different. It looks kind of like a Swedish modern art gallery on the inside of it. And this car, to me, is much more traditional, and especially much more traditional Volvo. So let's have a look at our instrument cluster here. It's very straightforward. You have a massive, huge central component to it, which in this case right now is showing us the beautiful mapping. But now here we go here, and I'll change over, and that's the void. There's nothing there. And then we go back there. So what can we do with all this? Well, let's see. Volvo's always vexed me. That's why I sometimes am heard to call them vexing Volvos. Well, not always. But the problem with them is they are not as intuitive as a lot of other cars. And that's a common problem, I say, with most of the cars I test these days. Because the new interfaces are such that they don't readily make sense to me anyway. Until once you learn them, you're in okay shape. But if you don't learn them, then you don't know. And but with this instrument cluster, it's pretty straightforward. If I want to look at, for example, my how do I get to that? Something I don't understand. I was just thinking. I'm thinking about past experience with Volvos, and I always had, there we go. This is one of my favorite menus that I leave in pretty much all the time. And this is a trip computer where I have manually set up how far I've driven the vehicle. In this case, 40.4 miles. And it's telling me I've gotten 111.8 miles per gallon. Now, why would that be? That would be because of most of that 40 miles, I'd say at least 30 of it, was on full electric, or what Volvo likes to call pure power. So it's not using the internal combustion engine, it's just using the electric motor for propulsion. So not bad, huh? Well, that's going to drop quite a bit now because I have exhausted most of the battery reserves in the battery that were there from being charged by plugging it in. And I'm now going into regular hybrid mode. And it does this automatically, and I'll show you exactly what's going on with drive modes in just a minute. But that's what it's telling me with that. Now, you do have different things you can look at on this. Oops, that was my fault. There we go. You can reset and then go, and then you can close this. And if you close this, it'll go back to its default position, which in this case is with the navigation system on. Maps, if you will. The tachometer is on the right-hand side over here, and it's not doing anything at the moment because the engine is running, but it is not propelling the vehicle. So does it ever tell you what you're... Well, I'll tell you what we'll do right now. We're going to leap ahead just for a second and go over to this little gear symbol on this thing and go to driving, and this will give us our various modes. Now, if we put it on Polestar, boom, look there. We have a tachometer now. And I can do that, and I can make it vroom up there because the engine is running right now because I just started the car. And it is, it says it's 64 degrees outside. Really? Well, it feels colder now. But the engine is warming up for a number of different reasons, primarily because for emissions. And all gasoline engines have to get their catalytic converters and other things up to speed in order to properly lower the emissions through the use of the catalyst, which the catalyst has to be a certain temperature and to work properly. That's why all of your cars, when you first start them, if they have a internal combustion engine anywhere on the car, that'll fire up right away to get up to temperature so that it's not putting out so much pollution. That's just the way it is. Now, what other modes do we have? Well, the pure mode I mentioned earlier, it's not available at the moment, but it just turned the engine off and went back. Do you see our tachometer's gone, and now it's just basically a power meter to show you what you're using, whether you're using battery or electric, or battery or internal combustion. And on the left-hand side, by the way, is our regular speedometer. And you can also, I think there's a way to do it, but I've forgotten how. But anyway, you can modify this just very, very slightly in terms of what you're reading on your central display and your overall analog type cluster, although of course it's flat screen, high definition simulations of analog instrumentation. So we also have our constant four-wheel drive mode, and boom, the all-wheel drive rather, and it when you do that, the engine comes on, because I don't think there's any way for the electric motor to fully drive all four wheels by itself. It is primarily a front-wheel drive component, and we'll take a look and see what our rear differential situation is and everything else. But I think you're going to find that it's probably a very conventional system that just goes into the gasoline engine. And we told you what pure was, and hybrid is, of course, the normal thing for driving. And as I have this set up so that I can tell what's going on with the electricity and everything else, and then it'll automatically use what it needs to, what it values to be the best system depending on battery charge level. I just leave it and I just let it do whatever it wants to, because you can do all kinds of things. Now, while I'm here, you can also see there's different kinds of battery holdage. You can get it so that if you want it to, it'll always start in drive and park, and there we go, in pure. Why that wasn't turned on, I'm not sure. But we also have automatic battery usage, which it just uses the battery and the electric motor as it sees fit. Hold is a special position, I believe, that will just run. Let's see if the engine starts if I hit it. No, it's doing nothing. Maybe that's just to hold what other mode it's in at the moment. I don't know. And then we have charge, and the engine does come on. And charge is now charging the engine. And it's also, you can also use that. When they delivered this vehicle, it was kind of amazing. This being a plug-in hybrid, I was assuming that the plug-in part of it, the electric motor battery value on it would be less than 100% charged, because that's just not feasible. There's not an easy place to charge it around here. But it had 100% charge on it. So what I think they did is they went and charged it at a facility that you can plug into, charge it to 100%, and then set it in one of these settings, whichever one is the right one. Thank God those drivers know. And just hold the charge where it was, and then when they got to my house, they put it back on automatic so that it would start using the electric power. But it did show up with a full tank of gas and a fully charged hybrid battery, which is no small feat. I was impressed by that. So what else? Well, let's go back over here. And Volvo's, in order to vex you, they have, here's our cruise control array right here, and this is our following distance on our adaptive cruise control. This will let you follow closer to the vehicle in front of you, and this is further away. You have a system right here where you can turn on, I have to have it in drive. Okay, now we're in drive. Okay, now then, our system, I'll press that, unavailable, parking brake applied. All right, I'll take the parking brake off. Now we'll try it. Now we are set on, you can have it as a default system that it has the pilot assist, which is their version, and I was looking for this. I'm looking for this later when I'm driving the car, because the chronology of when you see this is different than when it actually happened. But every manufacturer has their own name for their semi-autonomous driving system, and in this case, it's the pilot assist. And the pilot assist includes adaptive cruise control and steering, so it will try to steer you in the middle of the wheel. In the middle of the lane that you're in, as best as it can. And this is predicated on how well the cameras can see the lane, and a variety of lighting conditions and everything else to determine all that. But it works about average on this car. It's nothing outstanding. And there, I'll turn our cruise off, but that's our cruise center. Over here we have our standard lighting system and everything else. You can put it on automatic lighting, you can put it on regular lighting, you can put it on park brakes only, you can turn it off, you can do all these different things. But the auto setting is where you're going to be happiest, I believe. And then you have your, you press this down like so for your front and rear. Oops, there we go. There's our front and our rear fog lights. And actually, Volvo's been big on fog lights because apparently in Sweden they have a huge amount of fog. I think they do, and because they've always been good. Or is it just the fact that Volvo is always concerned with making their cars as safe as possible? And that's just a no-brainer to have good fog lights on your vehicle, no matter what you drive, because fog appears pretty much anywhere. And here in the Northeast, we get it all the time, and it can be very dense. So it's nice to know that you get a Volvo, it's going to have fog lights on it. That's just the way they are. To the right here, this is if you want to talk to the car, which I do not want to. And over here we have, this is what I was selecting earlier as far as whether or not we have that particular center screen or that. And this is the button I push in order to get into our trip situation. And this back and forth stuff. You know, there's all kinds of weird things going on with this car that when I use this, like for example, the 360 camera system just came on when I did that. I'll do it again. And now it's not coming on. These things, this vehicle has a life of its own and a mind of its own. So you got to remember that with a Volvo. And it's going to try to take care of you. That's the thing. It is going to try to look after you at all times. They're very safety-oriented, these Volvos, as I've mentioned before. Our right-hand side is our fortunately fairly familiar location for our windshield wipers, both fore and aft, and washing and all that kind of stuff. Now, I was trying earlier to get that back. Oh, there we go. I was trying to wash the back windshield, and I didn't hit it right, so there, it's working fine now. Okay. Back to our center array here. This is our main selection area right here, and we also have this here. You have a profile set up and everything else, and even it has a traveling journal. How about that? But depending on how you have everything wired up, and it does use Google apps and services, which if you like Google, you're in great shape. If you don't, you're not. But now it's popping back onto our 360 camera situation, which these are really nice to be able to do this. But there's our left side, and oh, let's spin her. Let's spin her around here. There, 360 degrees, and then we can look out the front. Let's look out the front. There we are, and that's what's directly in front of the vehicle. You'll notice something that Volvo's always done, and that is they put the best cameras they can put on the car, and these are really good high-definition cameras. No question about it. And here's our right side. What's out our right side? It's all clear right now. There's no dogs running around or anything like that. So, we'll go back here, and again, this is where you find all your... Hello, yes, turn that off, will you? Well, here, okay, let's go here and see what happens. There. It has, I'm telling you, it has a mind all its own. It's not going back to this. That's because I was there. And I should be able to go back here. Vexing. I'm giving you a live version of how vexing this thing can be. Huh. Well, we're still in drive. That's why. I guess. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing. We're going to put that park brake back on. And there we go back. Okay. Because it kept expecting me to creep forward at any moment, in which case it was trying to show me. Like I said, it will take care of you. Whether you want to be taken care of or not, it will look after you. One of the most useful features, by the way, in this array of selections is your owner's manual, because you can just pop in the term, and if it's in the owner's manual, it will tell you what to do. And you're going to need that when you first get this car, because you just have to find your way around and learn the Volvo way of how they do things. It is, I'm not saying it is the way, but I am saying it is the Volvo way. And the Volvo way is not bad, it's just different. Okay, now we drop down, and here we have something resembling a radio and climate control area, but not really. What we do have, what is that flickering coming from? I can't really tell. It's very interesting. Huh. this is our hazards, and naturally you have your easily accessible front and rear defrosters for maximum defrosting. This big round thing right here is for your radio. You can turn, you can pause, you can adjust the volume and do everything else. Once you get into the actual radio app, you're on your own. You gotta mess around with a lot of things to find your way, how to navigate, put in your favorite stations, and do all that. It's a learning process. Oh, and let's go back up here for a minute because I want to check. I was very curious about something. I don't want to do my profile, sorry. All right, headrest fold. Ooh, fold the headrest. Down they go. See? They ain't there anymore. They were just there, but now this is, again, Volvo attempting to allow you to see, which is good. You can put the service position for the wipers. Now, that's very convenient when you need to change your wiper blades. You just hit that button like that, and they should come up and stay. And there they did. You see? Clever. Clever. Exterior mirrors tilt at reverse. I've never liked that on any vehicle at any time, but they all do it. Fold mirrors when locked, blah, 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 blah. Rear seat reminders on. I've never liked that either. Turn off, yes, turn off. Visual, you got to remember if you have your kids or dogs in the car, folks. I'm sorry, that's on you, not the car. You can set your door unlock for just one door. If you live in a high crime area and someone's going to try to get in the car with you, or you can have all your doors unlocked when you hit the button. Trip information in instrument panel is manual. Heads up display, I knew it had one. I knew it had one. And there it is. Can you see? There, you can see it's blinking because of the difference in frame rate of the video and the actual projection. But then if you're in the heads up display, you're in for happiness because you have one if you want it. And then this is all the sundry stuff. You can even adjust, what was that thing I was just doing? I was just looking at, oh wow. You can adjust the interior brightness of the lights, the welcome light, and even turn on and off the daytime running lights. Why would you want to turn off your daytime running lights? I don't know. You must be trying to be secretive in your activities and sneak down people's driveways and stuff. So, where were we? Oh, yes. One of the neatest things on this car that I love is this, the crystal shifter. As you can see, it is made out of solid diamond or quartz, or most likely plastic. I think that's actually plastic. But in order to select your gears, you just go straight back for neutral and drive, and like that and like that. You do have, you don't have, I'll be damned. There's no paddle shifters on this, which really surprised. I could have sworn it had them, but it doesn't. So you have to rely on the fact that the shifting is going to be always automatic. When you're in Polestar mode, it'll be much sportier, but I can't readily tell you how you can manually shift this car because it just doesn't, unless if you go to G, there it is. That is your B mode, which is, that's probably braking mode. That's probably increasing your brake regeneration mode is what I like to call it, to help charge the battery. But there is no, there's got to be, there isn't. Well, how do you adjust the intensity of that? Let's see, there's B, and how do I go up and down with that? Like that? No. Let's see, left, there we go, B1, and B2, B3, there you go. Boy, it changes everything. The actual driving of the car changes. That's just weird. Let's go back to park. Okay, but that's the B mode, I assume, is braking. And so you don't have a regular manual shift mode on this car that I can detect. And all that means is I can't detect it. So this is your start-stop switch, which is a knob that you turn this way, located in the center console. Why they did it that way, I don't know, but I'm sure Volvo has a reason, and it's not a big deal. I know you may be used to putting used to pushing a button somewhere up in here, but that's just how they do it. And if you'll remember, even Saab, you remember Saab, another Swedish manufacturer, when they had a turn key, the key was located here, and it had something to do with what happens if you're in a really bad front collision. That's what I was told by somebody at Saab. Whether or not that was true, who knows. But they like to put them right here, the on-off activation of the vehicle right here in the center console. And here's your parking brake, and here's your automatic parking brake, which I can put on now. And it will, if I put it in drive, it should release the brake, and it doesn't. Huh. Let's undo the brake. Oh, there we go. Now we're on automatic. So now if I go to park, it should lock itself. And it's not. So pay no attention to what I have no idea what's going on there. I'm the most useless reviewer this week and most weeks that you'll ever see. But that is strange to me, but I'll have to figure that out later. Now here we have a very, very, very shallow console. And there is no, as I can detect, on this vehicle, any place for you to do your wireless charging. We do have a USB-C port there, a couple of them, and you have a 12-volt port here, and you have this strange little container right here, which I guess is just for quarters, as I am somehow losing my voice, and that's it. So you don't have a normal, what I would consider a nice deep console. You just have I'm a doctor, if you didn't know that. You have a nice big roomy glove box, however, which you could easily put like a tablet computer, even certain laptops would fit in there, I think. But you don't have anything in the center console that's deep enough for all that. What else can I show you in this area? We have a really nice panoramic roof that I like a lot. The control for that is a slide control right here. And then you have your map lights right here that are terrific because they're LED map lights. But again, a lot of this is pretty traditional Volvo that's been around for a long time. I would even go as far as to call it Volvo Classic. And naturally, you have your Bowers and Wilkins sound system, which sounds really, really nice, I must say. About the seats, well, first of all, they are very comfortable. They are heated. And are they cooled? No, but I'll tell you what is good. You do have a heated steering wheel, which is so important. Now, these Polestar engineered seats are art. First of all, you got your bright yellow. Matter of fact, I've never seen that before. I'm trying to remember the last time I had a car that the seat belts were a different color than the rest of the interior, but there you go. They're usually black. These are bright yellow. And these seats are absolutely fantastic in terms of support. You can't beat them. The front ones have genuine Napa leather, and the rear seats have non-genuine Napa leather. They have something called leatherette. So if you kind of get secondhand treatment in the rear seat in terms of leather, because this is the cockpit up here, folks. This is the drive. This is the operator center of your vehicle. And we get the Napa leather. But I can't say enough positive things about these seats in terms of if you're a driver and you like a driver's car type situation. These are really, really good in that regard. They really provide all kinds of support. The side bolsters are incredibly generous and large, but at the same time, they're not intrusive. So, as you can see, let's look at our bolsters. Bolster. Yeah. And those funky headrests and head restraints, I should call them. But there's a lot of adjustability to these seats as well. You can do all kinds of things. Matter of fact, if you mess with them like I'm gonna do here, am I thinking of another car? Probably. Ah, there we go. This is an idea of what is available to you, and this is the front. What I like to call the front part of I actually call it the bench on a bucket seat, because this lowers it's thigh support, and you can do all kinds of nice things with that. And here is your lumbar support, and if I want to increase Ooh, yeah. There's more lumbar and less lumbar. We're going to get rid of all our lumbar support. There we go. So, great seats. I really admire what they've done with these Polestar seats. They're great. Okay, now it is time for us to journey aft. I will unplug myself, and we'll take you outside, and we'll have a look. Have a look. Now, what size door are we talking about? It's pretty huge, but it's not as huge as it looks on the outside. And it's open about 88 degrees or so. And as you can see, in typical Volvo fashion, we have an enormous, I'll put the seat rest back up, we have this enormous center. It's almost like a 2+2 because it's so high. You have an enormous drive shaft tunnel going through here, and there's probably an enormous drive shaft going through it. We'll find out later if that's the case, but I believe it is. But you do have heated outboard seating here, and that's always wonderful to have. And you have a very nice wide, if you will, armrest, which is very handy to have. And it has a little ski through right here, which I'm not sure how you open it. Is there a button up there? Let's see here. Well, that sure looks like a ski through to me. Probably opens on the back. But you have a 60-40 increment situation, and these seats are really, really supportive for rear seats. I kid you not. And when you have the enhancement of this beautiful panorama roof, you really get a feeling of space. But it's not just a feeling, because you have very good. Look at there. There we are. We have very good leg room. Foot room is not fantastic, and like I say, this big drive shaft tunnel does restrict things just a little bit. You have these little dainty pockets that the seat is curved such that you couldn't get a whole lot of stuff back there. You can get a copy of National Geographic there, and some of your smaller tablets would fit in there just fine. Do we have any USB-Cs? I don't see any. No. What's here? Nothing. So it almost looks like there is, if a different model of this vehicle that's not the Polestar engineered model, I think it might have more in terms of bells and whistles. But this, it's not real into that. Now let's check out our windows here. Oh, that's like about 95%. And there are no window shades that I can detect. You got to check with these things. Sometimes they're very stealthy, but you do have your own personal map lights for your rear seat passengers, and a decent amount of room. It's actually pretty comfortable back here, and the headroom is good. And I really, really do love this panorama roof because it's quite nice. And the thing that's amazing about this massive roof, a glass roof on this car, is the car remains quiet. The interior is very, very quiet at speed. So anyway, so that's our what I would consider our Volvo classic style interior. It has its quirks. It's a quirky car company, but at the same time, it's extremely useful once you get to find your way around about how everything works, which as you can no doubt tell, I'm still finding out myself during my time with the car about how everything operates. And overall, the driving experience so far has been excellent. I'm really starting to dig this car. And I do love the fact that it's a station wagon and you have all that room back there too. So there you go. Let's take her out, see what you'll do. Let's not run over the horse. I tell you what, that's one thing you don't want to do. You don't tangle with them animals. You know, this looks like it has a heads-up display, but it's turned off, which is nice. But I was unawares. Let's see here. Let's put on our thing. Let's put that thing on as we cruise along here. I have to be careful because this is a very low to the ground vehicle with its performance-ness. That lower center of gravity is very important for those that perform. And I believe a lot of people out there are watching right now are performance oriented. There we go. Oh, that's much better. Firm is the suspension, as you would expect. All right. Eric, where's navigation now? You have navigation, right? Right? I don't see it any. There are maps. Yes, of course you do. And there we are. Oh, wow. That's a nice map. That's a map one could live by. All right, then. You know, I'm still futzing, getting all my adjustments. These seats are marvelous. They have a lot of support. They're very firm. I mean, they're not fooling around with this performance, this Polestar stuff. They really do look at everything, every aspect of the car. And let's see if I can adjust this here. What's that do? Oh, that's not what I want. What's this do? And you're just telling me weird thing. Oh, this is going to be one of those seats. It's going to take some doing. I don't know which seat is which either. I know nothing. Ooh, that's that. How do I adjust my lumbar, miss, sir? I'm trying to adjust things. I should have done this before I left, huh? Boy, it's a nice smooth road, which is exactly what you want to exploit when you have a vehicle of this nature. And it's really quiet too, by the way. Something I wanted to mention earlier, and I didn't, was this is a very quiet car. I think that is largely, even though we do have this big panorama roof on it, I think that's largely due to the lower belt line, because this is not an SUV. It is a sedan type vehicle. And it really is advantageous. Hello, UPS man. Now here we're going to go with some real turning here. And my camera's not near as tied down as usual due to the configuration of the seats. So, you're still there. You all right back there? Oops, I've been trying to run on full electric. I'm a dummy, because you start doing shenanigans and it will kick in the gasoline engine. We do have these different settings. The one they taught the most, the one they promote the most is called pure. And what does that mean? It means it's pure electricity. There is no gasoline engine intervention or assistance. It is completely operated by the electric motor. So that's what we've been trying to do, because I wanted to find out what the range is. So far we've gone 9 miles, and it's saying I have 25 miles of electric only range remaining. So that's 34 miles. And they're saying that you can get a maximum of 41 miles of electrical. That's probably under very ideal conditions, and that includes temperatures that are like in the 70s. We are currently at 50 degrees. Really? It feels colder than that. So you're going to lose. It's amazing how much electrical capacity you can lose in cold weather. They're doing everything they can to prevent that. And the big thing they're doing is they're heating the seats. And when they heat the seats, what am I talking about? God, I was drifting away there mentally. I was thinking of heating things. They heat the battery up in the wintertime while you're parked. And it uses some of the battery power to do that, but apparently not a whole hell of a lot, just to keep it at a warmer temperature, and that way you don't suffer the cold weather depletion that you used to with lithium-ion batteries. Which I'm assuming, I didn't see it where it was stated anywhere, but I'll continue to try to find it because I'm not getting the normal amount of information I normally get from Volvo, which is usually extremely precise. about everything, and very comprehensive. Tells you about everything you want to know. I know the capacity of the battery, but I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to bet it's lithium. And I'll find out for you. I'll know, and then I'll pass it on. You know, so far I'm very impressed with everything about this car as far as the driving dynamics. It has all these attributes. It corners very flat. The suspension does a real nice job surprisingly, just with ride comfort. It's not bad at all. It's very taut, but at the same time, it's not punishing. But I haven't been on a really rough road yet, so we have to determine that through the rough road tests. But so far, I'm impressed. Very impressed. And it was real nice of the Infrastructure Act to redo all these roads around here, because the roads are really smooth compared to the way they have been. And that's excellent. Probably going to stay this way for a little while. We shall see. And there's still a lot of controls on this car that are just the way they are. And that's the way Volvo does things. Interesting thing about this screen, I kind of like, I'm normally a horizontally, i.e. Landscape type of person when it comes to the center display. I prefer that to what is called portrait, which is what this is. But this is a nice portrait. And it seems to work very well. And it's also, something else is very interesting. It's not just a humongous size. It's actually a very good size. There's still far more stuff on getting to things that you have to depend on the touchscreen for. Now I can start to feel a little more of that firmness now. Yeah. It's a firm suspension. If you want something that's really super absorbent, this is not the one for you, because the compliance is not, it takes a back seat to control. So, which is true of Ohlins dampers in general. Like I say, my association with these performance parts from Brembo and from Ohlins comes from the motorcycle side of things, where they've been around forever. Well, not forever, but let's go since the 80s. And especially on high performance, Ducati was, one of the first companies that just really put them on their performance vehicles like crazy. And as a result, really good performing motorcycles. But suspension's firm, and you have to really dial it down to deliver a smoother ride, which I think you can do on this. I don't have an owner's manual for this car. Dang it. Or either that, or if there is an owner's manual, it's hidden somewhere that I haven't been able to locate yet. But it's not in the copious, space-wise, copious glove box. There's not anything in there that's like. Now what it has is there is an owner's manual incorporated into your system here, and you can look up stuff this way. And that seems to work fairly well. That's where I found how to reset the trip odometer, for example, which it doesn't stay in place. You hit it, and so far we've gone 26 miles, and I'm gonna say that's probably 90% on electricity. But you have a problem in the wintertime. They want to heat up the cabin as quickly as they can. And they want to heat up the engine as quickly as they can, so the catalytic converters come up to temperature for emissions reasons. And when it's cold outside, you got to fire that engine up right away and let it run enough to heat up enough. And they have all kinds of tricks nowadays to help the engine heat up really fast. But during that period, it is using fuel, it is consuming gasoline, and it's usually the time where a gasoline engine burns the most fuel. But in this situation, I believe all the engine did when it started when I first started the car was to heat up, to get everything up to temperature, but not to propel the car. That was all being done by the electric motors. So, while it will be consuming fuel, it won't be as bad as if this was just a regular gas car and you're driving it before the engine is completely up to temperature. That is the point where the emissions are highest and your fuel consumption is some of the highest, till everything gets all warmed up. Very smooth. As long as you drive on smooth pavement, the ride is smooth. Hey, here's the thing about that though. I've driven some vehicles that even on really smooth pavement like this right here, it still bounces all over the damn place. And I don't know how that happens, but it can feel every irregularity in the road. Most annoying. And you don't want every irregularity visiting you. No, that's not good. Deer, woo! That would have been bad. Did you see that deer? I don't think you did. That was something else. Boy, that guardrail stopped him. That's very advantageous to me. So I'm on my cruise control situation here, and I'm also using Volvo's, whatever they call it. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. Everybody has their own. When they have a system that both steers and uses adaptive cruise control, it is usually set up such that it has its own name for that particular manufacturer. Like, for example, I know Ford is Blue Cruise. I know GM is Super Cruise. Everybody has their own name. And this one, I know, on Volkswagen, it's Travel Advisor or something like that. And this, I'm sure Volvo must have their name. Maybe they leave it in the original Swedish, and it's Travel Undercarriage or something like that. But all these systems use the same basic types of technology, but there's a little bit of difference in all of them. And then the biggest difference is, of course, how they're calibrated. And that determines how much activity you get out of the steering wheel when the vehicle is actually steering the car, which it's doing right now. This one is trying to be ridiculously precise on unprecise roadways, and I'm sure there's a huge visual component that it's looking at, and it's the only way it knows where the lines are is by looking at them, literally with a camera, and then that's being interpreted by the Volvo central control computer, and it then takes the electric power steering and has its way with it. Well, this car seems to be really moving around because it's constantly adjusting to what it sees. And this is a perfect example. It's one of the reasons I came this way. When you have a cross-sliding situation with a lot of shadows, I think that can confuse the system just a little bit. And so it's working extra hard to try to maintain the middle of the lane, and it's harder for it to do that. And it's not annoying really on this car. And all these systems, in theory, are designed for you to use just on the open highway. This probably would not, but the engineers would probably say, this is not the type of road this is designed to be used for. And see, it makes these corrections at the last second, and it's a bit disturbing if you're not ready for it. I'm a professional, I am ready. Boy, howdy, I just knocked the speed way down. Yeah, if you hold it down, it goes 5 miles increments. And watch this. Wow. See, it can't, I'm gonna turn off. It can't handle this country road very well. And that's not its fault, it just, it is. But it's something to remember with these systems, when and when not to use it. And I would agree with the engineer if there was an engineer sitting in the car right now and say, you know, that system is really not made for these conditions on this road. And I would agree with him. And that's fine. There's plenty here to keep you awake if you're driving the car yourself, which you should be. So it's welcome, friends, welcome to the underside of our Volvo V60 Polestar all-wheel drive. Did I say V60? I hope so. Station wagon, which is full of surprises, this thing. Not only that, I love being shown to be completely wrong about something, but I initially said, and I may have overdubbed it now, or put something at the bottom of the screen or something, but I assumed that this being a plug-in hybrid, the electric motor component was attached to the end of the engine, which is transversely mounted up front. But I was wrong. Because, and I also stated, I believe, since this was all-wheel drive, I assumed that that motor was up front next to the engine, attached to the engine, and then the all-wheel drive system was powered by a drive shaft in a conventional manner going to a rear differential. Right there. But guess what? I was totally wrong. Not only is the electric drivetrain, the rear drivetrain electric driven, but the electric motor is back here too. So where do we start? We'll start with that before I get to the suspension, which is also very interesting. But this right here is your electric motor, and interestingly, for a Swedish-made car with a lot of Swedish components, no U.S. or North American content whatsoever, but it's made in Sweden, and the transmission is made in Japan, and apparently this rear motor right here is made in China. See, it's a world car, but it has no direct connection as far as a drive shaft or anything else to the front of the car. This is where we get 143 of the 455 horsepower on tap. So it's always using this rear drivetrain in addition to the front drivetrain. So it's all computer-controlled madness. To the best of my knowledge, this is the entire rear electrical power system that also is the power system for the entire car. In terms of the electric side of things. When you plug in your battery, you're recharging the battery, which is then going to power this right here. And it has no physical attachment to the front of the vehicle except for the cables that run to the, probably to the computer control unit and also to the lithium-ion battery. I'm assuming it's lithium-ion. Haven't seen anything that says otherwise, but so anyway, that's the drivetrain that so pleasantly surprised me. Now let's look at the suspension. The suspension has one of my favorite Volvo things, which I feel like is also another indicator that it's part of the old school Volvos of recent years as opposed to the latest of the latest, because instead of like a coil spring multi-link setup, it has more of a multi-link setup, but here is our suspension. It is a transversely mounted composite leaf spring. Now, I've seen on a lot of the Volvos, especially just a few years ago, very, very common way of suspending the rear end, and I love it because I think it's neat, it's unique, it's only the Corvette was doing this for years and years, and I don't even think they do it anymore. I don't know if they have a transverse mounted leaf spring. But this is very interesting to me, and it's like I say, it seems like it may be superseded with some of the newer models with a more, what I consider to be conventional coil spring multi-link setup. But I love this suspension. It's a good suspension, but I just love the fact that it's unique, it's different. It's a leaf spring going all the way back to the days of covered wagons. But what else do we have? Well, here's our beautifully finished gold Ohlins shock absorber, which is just beautiful. Everything under here is interesting. Then you drop down here and look at our lower control arm, And look at this. It's a huge sucker that's made out of either cast or forged aluminum, or however they're making aluminum these days. I don't know. There's probably some kind of 3D printing, or I have no idea. And then here's your leading link right here, which I believe that's metal. No, that's a rubber coating on something. And underneath there is steel, I think. But it's just beautiful, this rear suspension on this car. It's so interesting. I mean, first of all, you got this big electric motor, and then you have your transverse mounted springs, and then you have your Ohlins right there, and then you have your massive Brembo brakes. Can you see in there? Massive Brembos in there. So this is a fascinating rear suspension on this car. And like I say, I find the rear suspensions fascinating. The front ones are all pretty much the same. Either you have coilover shocks or McPherson struts, and that's about it. Now, one thing you'll notice right off the bat is, I've mentioned before, this car doesn't have a whole lot of ground clearance. You can really tell that here. It has enough to go over some reasonable, like my driveway, which is a challenge for a lot of vehicles. It's, what do you call it? Oh, yes, unfinished driveway. But it's very low to the ground, and that's one of the reasons, another reason why it has such excellent handling. And you also see a lot of these shrouds and plastic shields and things like that to further make the lower part of the car, the chassis, if you will, more aerodynamic at speed, which helps your overall highway, especially gas mileage. So, and again, there's another link up here. Look at that one. That looks like a big old piece of steel right there. So it's got multi-links suspended with a composite leaf spring just to make it entertaining. And then you have your completely separately mounted electric motor that's in use all the time, I guess. You won't get your 455 or whatever it is horsepower total without the input from this motor right here. And right now, I don't have a whole lot of battery capacity, but I don't think it ever completely runs out, because as long as the engine is running, I'm assuming they can still put a charge on that lithium-ion battery. They're not going to let it run all the way down anyway, because it's not a good thing to do. But here you can see this plastic shroud a little bit better here. A lot of leaves here from the season. You can see those right there. So anyway, that's our rear suspension on our Volvo V60 Polestar. And man, it's very, very interesting. Oh, one other thing I should point out, it does have a subframe here, but it's nothing like most subframes that are attached to unibody construction vehicles, because it's not as necessary because of the way this suspension is configured and the way the transverse mounted leaf spring is in there. You don't need this huge superstructure that you need if you have coil springs and a multi-link setup that's using that as their compression device. I'm not sure why that is exactly, but there's no question that this is a very solid car, and it has a very solid ride to it. So there you go. And with that, we shall move on. But man, what an interesting car, and full of surprises. Here I thought it was powered by an electric motor up front, but it's actually right there. Well, that takes care of this particular Volvo V60 T8 all-wheel drive Polestar engineered plug-in hybrid. I tell you what, I really do like driving a station wagon after being saddled with so many SUVs, because it just drives better, it handles better. This one in particular, with all its wonderful suspension bits, including that wonderful transverse mounted rear leaf spring, which I think is cool, and at 455 horsepower. And despite that, having only plugged it in once to use the plug-in hybrid feature, I still got around 32 miles per gallon overall. And that's quite good for a car with that kind of power output. It also has a lot of room in it and is very, very comfortable to drive, and has all the latest safety features, because this is a Volvo after all. And our base price was $71,250, and our as equipped price was $72,445. So think about it. If you're looking at an SUV, you might want to consider something like an honest-to-goodness station wagon, because they have so many great driving attributes, and they tend to be a lot more economical in terms of fuel consumption. So there you go. Hey, this is my 100th video. Thank you very much for your kind patronage. And we'll see you again next time, before you know it.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.